You fire off the same video prompt in MiniMax H3 and Veo 3.1, and one bill lands 3 times higher than the other for the exact same output length. One's an open weights challenger and one is Google's flagship. And the real question is, which one your budget and workflow can actually live with? Test 1, cost. So you're generating video at scale, maybe 50 clips a week for a client campaign, and at $0.40 per second, a 10-second clip runs you 4 points every single time, which means 50 of those puts you at $200 a week just on raw API calls before you factor in the passes that don't make the cut. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. I pulled the published API rates, and here's what I found. MiniMax H3 comes in at 0.13 to 0.14 per second at 2K resolution, while Veo 3.1 sits at 0.40 per second via the Gemini API. And if you're on Veo 3.1's AI Pro subscription, that narrows to about 0.25 per second. But community reports put MiniMax H3's real per shot costs around $8 once you account for multiple generation passes. The subscription math does close the gap a bit, and if you're already deep in the Google ecosystem on AI Pro, that 0.25 per second is real. MiniMax H3 has no subscription tier at all though, only API, so for anyone generating at volume without a Google subscription, the raw per second advantage is pretty clear, and it stays clear. MiniMax H3 takes costs, and it's not subtle. Roughly 3 times cheaper per API second is the number the title is asking about, confirmed right here, and that puts MiniMax H3 1, Veo 3.10. I only caught that pricing gap because I've been living inside these video APIs long enough to watch the bills stack up in real time, so drop a comment if the per second rate has ever surprised you mid-project. Test 2, Coding Benchmark Performance. You might have seen MiniMax's other model, M3, scoring 59% on SWE Bench Pro, and wondered if that carries over to H3, or if Veo 3.1 has any coding chops at all. And the short answer is, this dimension is basically a non-starter for both, and I want to be upfront about why. I looked hard at this, and the scorecard stays blank for both models. MiniMax H3 is a video generation model. Veo 3.1 is a video generation model, and neither has coding benchmark data that applies, so that SWE bench figure is for MiniMax M3, a completely different product, and drawing a line between them here would be pulling a number out of thin air. No score for either side here since neither model targets coding at all, so the tally stays MiniMax H3 1, Veo 3.10, with one dimension set aside. Test 3, Speed. You're on a deadline, client needs a revision in 20 minutes, and you're watching a progress bar, and at 90 to 120 seconds, just to render an 8-second clip a single round trip, burns 2 minutes minimum. So string together 5 revision passes, and you've lost 10 minutes just waiting before you've even looked at the footage. What got me here is that Veo 3.1 Fast is the only model with a published generation time at 90 to 120 seconds per 8-second clip, while MiniMax H3's generation time I couldn't find anywhere in the docs or community reports, so the comparison is one-sided by default, and that absence itself hands Veo 3.1 the edge on transparency alone. The caveat is real. We're comparing a published number against silence, not against a slower competitor, and MiniMax H3 might be faster or slower, But until those numbers are out in the open, Veo 3.1 is the only one you can actually plan a workflow around. And if predictable turnaround time is part of your production math, that matters. Veo 3.1 takes speed on the strength of being the only model with a real published turnaround time, which is a cost of its own kind, and the scoreboard is now level. MiniMax H3 Veo 3.11, one set aside. Alright, so it's all square right now, and the next two tests are the ones that could completely flip your decision, because output limits and deployment flexibility are still on the table. And depending on what you're actually building, one of those dimensions is going to matter way more than the per second rate we just scored. Test 4, context and output limits. You're producing a 30-second product video, and your model caps out at 8 seconds per clip. So now you're stitching 4 separate generations together, hoping the lighting and motion stay consistent across cuts. And every extra join is another chance for a visible seam, which is a real production cost that doesn't show up in the per second pricing. I ran through the specs twice because the split is pretty interesting. MiniMax H3 gives you a single clip up to 15 seconds at 2K resolution and takes 9 images plus 3 videos plus 3 audio references in one run, while Veo 3.1 caps a single clip at 8 seconds at 1080p natively, but chains up to 20 clips for narratives over 140 seconds total, which is a completely different use case. Veo 3.1 takes this one because scene chaining for 140 plus seconds is a capability MiniMax H3 simply doesn't have. And for long-form narrative work, that's the whole ballgame, which puts Veo 3.1 ahead. MiniMax H3 1, Veo 3.1 2, one set aside. Test 5, deployment and modality. You've built a pipeline that takes a product photo, a voiceover file, and a reference video clip and needs to feed all 3 into one generation call. And if your model only accepts text and images, you're back to pre-processing audio separately, stitching it in post, and adding an extra step that breaks your automation. Line these up side by side, and the gap is pretty clear. MiniMax H3 takes text, images, video, and audio references natively with 32 Hz stereo audio and planned open weights release, while Veo 3.1 is closed and takes text and images only, but runs inside Gemini, Vertex AI, AI Studio, Replicate, and FAL.ai, which is a deep platform footprint for teams already inside Google's stack. MiniMax H3 takes deployment and modality because open weights plus native audio plus omni-modal inputs is a flexibility combination. Veo 3.1 can't match right now, and that brings us all even. MiniMax H3 2, Veo 3.1 2, one set aside. MiniMax H3 wins on raw API cost at roughly 3 times cheaper per second, on single clip output at 15 seconds at 2K resolution, on multimodal inputs with 9 images, plus 3 videos, plus 3 audio references per run, and on flexibility with planned open weights and native 32 kHz stereo audio across 11 dialogue languages. Veo 3.1 wins on long-form narrative work with scene chaining up to 20 clips and 140 plus seconds of continuous story, on 4K upscaling and vertical video for shorts, on deep Google ecosystem integration across Gemini, Vertex AI, and AI Studio, and on published generation speed at 90 to 120 seconds per 8-second clip. If you're generating video at API scale and that 3 times cheaper per second number is real money to you, MiniMax H3 is your pick. But if you need narratives longer than 15 seconds, or you're already inside Google's stack, Veo 3.1 is the one that actually fits. And for most creators, the cost and resolution wins are immediate and tangible. One thing that didn't come up in the benchmarks. Veo 3.1's 4K output is an upscale, not a native 4K capture. So if you're marketing the resolution to a client, you want to know that going in because the underlying native output is 1080p, and the upscale is a post-processing layer, not a sensor-level quality gain. If the cost question here got you thinking about whether these models are worth the premium across the board, I did a full breakdown on Claude Sonnet 5, should you use it, where the same cost versus capability trade-off shows up in a completely different way. So check that one out next.